What's going on, Facebook? Welcome back to Keep It Real Fridays. This is our live stream episode 3. And we took a few weeks off, but we are back and rolling. So we're going to kind of do this for the next couple Fridays with some different special guests. I'm excited at the conversation that we're going to have. But first, we want to jump in and just tell you what Keep It Real Fridays is. So make sure you share this conversation. But Keep It Real Friday started little over, this is now what last month started with the 15th year. So we've been doing this for about 14 years. It was traditionally a youth and young adult service in the area that was taking place at different churches where we would bring youth and young adults together at various churches, just cross denomination, just not, just really not thinking about, just the different denominational barriers or church barriers. We were just like, let's bring young people together. Let's bring artists together. Let's provide a safe space for youth and young adults to really just engage in worship in their own creative way. But of course, COVID has kind of shut that down, but we decided to go to this virtual format. And so we're just excited to just do something different in 2020 and just have these different conversations on Friday night. So you'll see different things like the relaunch weeks ago. We had some artists in the area. We also had, the last episode, we had my pastor, Pastor William Lamar. We were talking about, just youth and young adults and dealing with multiple pandemics. And, those are some of the conversations we're having. So we'll continue to have artists. We'll continue to do different things. We'll do panel discussions. But tonight, I'm excited because I got one of my good buddies that's going to join us. But before I introduce her, I want you to check out what we're doing. KeepItRealFridays.com. You can look at some of our previous conversations that we've had that I just mentioned, and that's how you can stay connected with us. So I invite you to go to the website, KeepItRealFridays.com. Shameless plug. Yeah, thank you. We got Vanna White, giving us the so yeah, definitely check us out, KeepItRealFridays.com, so you can keep and if you know young people that want to be involved. So this is not about just myself or me being on display or just the different people. If you have young people that have gifts, if you have young people that are doing great things in the community, plug them in with what we're doing. And, we would like to bring them on a Friday night and just, have discussions, have conversations, so let them share their gift or share their talent. So enough of that. I have my good buddy, my good friend, Kyana Bradley. I'm going to let her introduce herself in a few moments, but I have to tell y'all. What's up? What's up?
How you feeling, Thomas?
And I'm
What's
good.
up, TBJ?
Ain't nothing. So I got to tell folks the story, right? So I've known Kyana for some years now. And just recently, we just kind of reconnected via social media. So I had one story of where I remember Kyana from, but then she reminded me that we had connected again. But I remember years ago. And both of us only 21, y'all. We only 21.
Right, please, not too many years. I graduated in 2012.
So, but don't lie on Friday night. Don't lie.
I apologize. 1990. Go ahead.
98. But I remember my first encounter with Kyana was at the Soul Factory.
Oh wow! This new for me.
I thought I told you this.
You about to go ahead and put me on the spot.
we about to put the business out. So we about to put the business.
Let me call my therapist on the line right quick while you're doing this, because I might need to do something with the emotion. I'm not like, no. Go ahead. I'm listening. Let's go.
So I remember back at the Soul Factory, and I think I was there for one of Duran. It was Duran Cloud, right?
Yes.
I think I was there for one of the plays. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think you were rapping for one of the plays during like an intermission or when an artist came. I don't know if it was for that or if it was for a young adult event, because I know I went to a young adult event too.
Right.
But all I know, that was my first encounter. I was like, oh man, like she is out here giving the bars, like just
That
straight.
is funny.
She was out here rapping. She went by Kyana the rapper, and that was one of, I think, for my experience, one of the first women rappers that I heard spitting gospel in this area. You know, and you know, I've since met some others, but I think that was my first experience in this DC area, and I was just like, wow, like, and of course you don't remember this, but I think you were selling CDs I think you were selling CDs, I think.
Okay.
But I remember either I bought a CD or I got a card from you. I spoke to you because I was just like, yeah, this is somebody that I hope to try to get connected with Keep It Real Fridays down the road. Little did I know this was the story that you brought to my remembrance, that we would reconnect at Philadelphia Community Baptist Church with the Jones family. And shout out to the Jones family. Because we did a partnership that they
Lenora,
all of them,
all of them, absolutely.
And so we did a partnership at Keep It Real. I think it was kind of a partnership, I think, with their I think it was an abstinence event, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
So we did a partnership. We had some artists.
Yes, we said abstinence. Yes.
Yeah, we
abstinence.
said
Click on. People ain't listening. People was clicking on. I ain't got time for no abstinence. These people, these super religious people.
I ain't messing with you. But that was back then. That was way back then. So we came together for this event, and you know, we had some artists, and you were one of the artists for the event. You know, and that's where we kind of connected then, and then just since then we've kind of been connected through social media until recently. And you know, I'm just grateful for what God is doing in your life. But I want you to share with everybody a little bit about yourself before I tell more about your business.
Absolutely. It's funny because a lot of people from you to Sean Riffraff, a lot of people know me from being a rapper, and it's amazing. The people in my space right now who know me as therapist Kyana probably couldn't even fathom or even think of me rapping or doing anything of that nature. So I do not rap any longer. Can I? I definitely can. But I won't.
You gotta give us some bars. You gotta give us some bars.
I don't rap for free, honey. I don't rap for free, honey. No, but now what I do is I'm so thankful to God because I am able to literally get paid to do what I love to do. Right? A lot of people say about therapists, you know, well, you don't get paid if people don't have issues. No, sir. Because sometimes it's not so much about issues. Sometimes it's just me supporting people, right? Sometimes it's about me making sure that people are able to connect with themselves, right? But I get to do that for a living, right? And so that is my goal. And when we talk about TBJ, how we met, I've been in this game helping people for a long time, and to do it on this level is just a blessing. It's just, I definitely enjoy it. And I'm excited to talk about it now. So I incorporated authentic connections. I'm not doing no freestyle, and you gonna try to put that up there.
I was just kind of, just letting the people talk.
Joy, you got money? My Cash App is at.
Now right. Put your Cash App out there because we might want to freestyle.
So listen. I have Authentic Connections Therapeutic Services is what I do. Where I do individual, group, family, couples, married, counseling in order to help people authentically connect to themselves and others by cultivating healing in the heart and mind. Back to you, TBJ.
Well, I just want to put this comment up. Jordan said I got $20 on it. I'm gonna raise it. I'm gonna raise it by 30. I think if we can get to 65, she might give us a.
Let me pull up YouTube back in the old Kyana back in the day.
Okay, cool. So that's dope. Thanks for sharing a little bit about your journey. So let's talk about a few things. Let me jump into my first question. My first question to you is you talked about how you were helping people out, and that was a part of who you are.
Yes.
And so tell me how did you get to this journey, and when did you start to realize that therapy was important? Because you know, for many of us, especially those, I graduated in 98, you graduated in 99. So many of us in that Xennial or Gen X generation grew up with families and parents that was like, nah, we Black, we don't do no therapy, we don't do no counseling, like, we ain't going to no psychologist, like, nah, we, So how did you venture into this journey, and what made going to therapy, or I guess, as you got into this field, why is therapy important for our community?
It's amazing, Thomas. I remember being a senior in high school, right? And I remember I played basketball, right? I was pretty good. I'm a little older now. And I sprained my ankle. This was the only game my mother came to, right? My mother, I love telling my story because it made me who I am today. I learned so much from everything that I go through, I learned, right? And that's some of the things I teach my clients. And so my mother was on drugs and an alcoholic when I was younger. And so this was the one game. I think she came to a championship game when I was in middle school. But my only high school game my mother came to was my senior day high school game. And I was so excited. And I went up for a rebound. I don't know if you guys know what a rebound is, but a rebound is that thing when a ball hit off the rim and you catch it and you kind of go, rah. I don't know, TB, you might not.
I know, because I used to be dunking on folks all the time.
You might not know about that one, because you was out there on the perimeter shooting, right? But
I do a little bit of both.
I love it. So I 5 minutes, if 5 minutes into the game, I severely sprained my ankle. And I had to go to my mom and had to go to the doctor, and I had to get a cast or whatever. It was like an air cast or whatever. From that point, I end up being in the trainer's room, and I was determined to play in the playoff game. But the doctors, everybody said that you are done for the season. And I was like, who you talking to? And I went and I would go to the trainer, and I remember laying in the trainer's room and talking to the trainer. And this was the first time that I felt heard. Not that no adult had heard me, but this was the first time I was in a closed environment where it was just me and him. And he was asking me about my goals. He was asking me about what I wanted to do. He was asking and listening and engaging in a reciprocal conversation where if I said something, he would validate. If I said something, he would ask questions for clarity. Little did I know that this was the start of what I do now. And Terry, the trainer name was Terry. I don't remember his last name. We just called him Terry. And from that, I said, I want to be a physical therapist, a sports medicine. I want to go in sports medicine because I want to help athletes deal with their issues because I had no idea about counseling when I was in high school. I had no idea about social work and counseling. All I know is I know what Terry did for me. And I said, I wanted to do it for other people. So that was the start of my helping journey as far as therapy. But I was doing summer camps. I was doing I still mentor to this day. And that was the start. And so when I went to college, though, I realized that sports medicine wasn't what I wanted. Sports medicine was about medicine. It was about you had to take anatomy, you had to take health classes, and it wasn't my interest because my interest was actually social work and counseling. And it wasn't until I remember really not liking what was happening. And I love my school, Waynesburg College at the time, University now, is because they threw me into sports medicine. And I got an opportunity to see. I don't want to touch people's feet. I don't want to do, it was so much stuff I had to do, but I'm thankful for the experience because it pushed me to have to go to see a career counselor. All of this is going to make sense. So I go to school for sports medicine, college for sports medicine. I end up not really liking it, but trying to figure out, I go to a school counselor who then gives me a Myers-Briggs test. And that's when I found out about therapy. And I found out, because like you said, TBJ, my family didn't talk about therapy. I didn't go to therapy. All the trauma, I told you, one of the biggest traumas, or it is a big trauma, not the biggest, but having a parent on who struggles with substance abuse. That's a traumatic experience. I can tell you a whole lot of stuff. I also had an absent parents. My father passed away when I was 15. But how many, who talked to that? Who talked about that to me? Who processed that with me? Where did that anger go from or go to when I am now frustrated that I will never know what it would feel like to have a relationship with my dad? So all I have to say, by the time I go and see the counselor, and comes and I'm introduced to therapy, and that's when I switched my major. At my college at the time did not have it. I went to sociology and took all these psychology classes, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So I want to jump a little bit because you said something.
Let's jump.
So you talked about dealing with trauma as a young person, and you talked about some of your experiences growing up with your parents. I want to talk about mental health as it pertains to our youth, our teenagers, and even our young adults at this stage of life. We are in a place where trauma is almost normal in a sense. We have young people, especially in the DC area, who are going through so much trauma. Some who are witnessing gunfire and violence and seeing their peers being shot in front of their faces, having to go to multiple funerals. I probably can count on my one hand, the number of funerals that I went to as a child, or as and many of those funerals were probably those who were much, much older in age, family members. But these young people, they're going to funerals, maybe some of them on a weekly basis, having to mourn their friends. And, we're talking about, gun violence. We're talking about, poverty in the DC area. We're talking about gentrification. We're talking about COVID-19. Like, can you talk about the importance of, layers on layers?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about the importance of how we confront our mental health, and especially with our young people?
I think, first of all, this is just my opinion, right? But when you think about the Tuskegee experiment, that's when you talk about, as a Black individual in America, that is that's where a lot of our pushback when it comes down to doing anything that has to deal with doctor medicines or anything. Because then on the flip side of it, you got to watch mental health as well, because then you got people who are being overly diagnosed with ADHD, ADD, or, major depression or anxiety. And it may be adjustment disorder, especially during this time. It's a lot of adjusting happening. And so that's one of the reasons why I would say, not the reason, and it probably could be other reasons, but that is the apprehension that I know comes from within my community when it comes out to mental health. And if you really dive into how mental health started, it was a lot of it is white men, right? It's a lot of it is people who at one point didn't even think that Black people could read or could think normally, right? And so I get why we were so adverse to, or we did not want to participate in mental health, right? And then I'm gonna give you a little bit more when you think about the welfare system, where you're bringing in social work, and social workers have to come into the house. Yes, they're coming to support, but especially back in my days in the 80s, and when you got welfare and the stuff and the crack epidemic happened, you had individuals who you couldn't let anybody know that daddy was in the house, because they'll take money from you. So or one of the things that in my community as well, we like to beat our kids, or we like to spank our kids, or however you say. So we had to hide a lot of stuff, because if we said it, they'll try to take us as the kids from our parents, or take the kids from the parent. So when you say, why don't people want or trust mental health? Because it's associated with a lot of negativity, especially in my community. I'll speak about my community, right? When a social worker came in my house, we had to get ready. We had to make sure things were good. And that is the total opposite that you want when it comes to therapy. I have to teach people, and you asked about authenticity, I have to teach people how to be authentic, so when they come into therapy, they can bring their full self without judging themselves, so they can really deal with their trauma. So now when I give you that little bit of history of why we don't really trust mental health, when you say that so many people are having this trauma, and trauma is a distressing event, trauma absolutely, it changes, it rewires how we think, right? It causes us to be hypersensitive, right? So much so when you think about racism and you think about Black people. I was telling one of my clients this: if another Black person talks to me about Black on Black crime, we're gonna have a conversation. Why are you using that term, Black on Black crime? You know, where does it come from? If you live in this area, is it white on white crime? Is it Latino on Latino crime? Or is it you're gonna commit a crime if only African Americans live in your space? We can have that. But if a white person says something to us about Black on Black crime, so what you say is kind of like that's called hypersensitive, because racism has finally been classified as trauma. Hello? It's considered trauma, a distressing event, right? Growing up in a violence-stricken neighborhood, trauma. Right. And remember what I said, trauma is rewiring the brain. So now you have these kids who are experiencing a lot of trauma, like you said, witnessing their friends. These are people they was hanging out with last night. They left them that night, and that friend got shot. So guess what that person now has to deal with? Did they die because I left them? Did I leave my friend? How do you process that? If you have nobody to talk to about that and you hold it in, let's say that boy is 15, because I had a client who actually experienced that and told me that. And let's say he wants to get married at 25. 10 years later, he wants to get married, but he never dealt with that guilt. He never had somebody, because he never spoke about it. And nobody told him that it wasn't your fault. He's carrying that around. He gets to his wife. He loves her. He wants to be with her. He wants to connect with her. But as soon as she says, or if she tells him, I feel like you're not there for me, it touches on that guilt that he had felt when he was 15. That's why it's important to deal with trauma. Because when you have unresolved trauma, it gets into you. The past stuff messes in your present stuff. That makes sense, TBJ? What you think?
Yeah, perfect. So I want to share, because talking about having to deal with that past trauma, I want to share a little bit about my journey. So, and this is probably going to be news to many folk for the first time, but a couple of years ago, I realized that I had a lot of stuff going on the inside of me that I was not able to articulate. I was not able to express. I was repeating behaviors and patterns and habits, different relationships, just different friendships. I always felt like I dealt with low self-esteem.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, I was like, I need to figure out why I keep going through these patterns. I feel like I'm a good guy. Yes. But I keep, inflicting self-sabotage on my life in a lot of areas.
Okay.
Not just relationships, but, just dreams or visions or whatever. It was just patterns after patterns.
Right.
And so I finally decided, okay, maybe I need to go to counseling. And that was a tough decision for me. But I said, you know what? I got this insurance. I need to take advantage of it. Let me go to counseling. And let me, Kyana, I went to that first session, and if I can be very transparent,
please,
coming from an African American male, my therapist was an older white woman. Okay. And I was like, I went into it, and I was like, what's she about to tell me about my life?
Right.
Right. And that was no sense of racism or anything of that nature. I just felt like there was no relatability.
Absolutely.
There. Yeah. And I was just like, I don't know about this. I just had reservations. I had an attitude during the session, and when I went to the first couple sessions, it just was just like a prodding into my life. and started to prod into my life and started to make me surface up stuff that I didn't want to talk about. One,
absolutely.
Two, that I didn't realize it was there. And for a moment, I was just like, nah, I ain't doing this no more. I mean, those first...
It gets like that.
Yeah, those first 2 or 3 sessions were tough. Like, I literally left with tears because I was just like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to talk about it. And part of that story too, I went to counseling because I took an assessment, and I was diagnosed with high anxiety and mild depression, which I still battle and fight through. That's a part of my journey. That is probably the first time publicly I'm saying it, but I'm okay with it because that's a part of me moving through this journey. It's recognizing that, hey, there's times where, even the last week, my anxiety was high. It was, a lot of stuff I was dealing with, kind of meeting deadlines on things. And I was just like, Lord. And so I know it affected me, but it made me revisit things in my childhood that I didn't realize that was there. And we got back to a place where, and some people know this story, but I was adopted. And I found out when I was 11 years old. And I didn't realize that some of what I was going through with the low self-esteem, with some of the insecurities, the depression, the anxiety was me not dealing with rejection.
Yeah.
And I thought I was okay with it. Like, I thought I was okay with, I was, because when I first told, I was young. I was like, oh, I was adopted. Okay. And I moved on. But I think once I got through high school, I started to experience rejection in different ways. And I started to, subconsciously attribute it to that rejection piece. And that thing followed me through my adulthood. And I just kept pushing it off, suppressing it, not talking about it. Very few people knew I was adopted. I didn't want to share, and I realized I just didn't want to talk about that rejection piece of it. And for me, these last couple of years on my own mental health journey, like, and I even recognize now that, I have to get back into counseling and therapy again. I think that's very essential for my life, because even as I'm stepping into some new places in my journey, like I know I got to get back into this, because I still, just because you go to therapy don't mean that stuff go away.
Not at all.
And so I thank you for lifting up that, that trauma and how we got to deal with it and how we have to face it. I want to jump in.
Well, wait, can I first?
Go ahead.
Can I first acknowledge your level of transparency, vulnerability, authenticity? That's so important. We can't skirt past that, Black man. We can't skirt past that, and the things that you were able to. First of all, you had to press past those preconceived notions when you saw that therapist. There were things you probably had some fear, right? So, because you are going into a room with a person you don't know, and they're going to ask you questions and talking about stuff that you probably never talked about out loud, right? And I just want to say thank you for being an example. Thank you for being there for you. Thank you for being there for that 11-year-old kid who, when you first heard it, you felt it. But that's what. So defense mechanisms, they are there to protect us. They are negative because typically, like denial, which you might have experienced with some denial, right? You might have projection, and those are defense mechanisms, but they are there to support. So I just want to thank you for showing up for you. Thank you for not only did you show up for you, you also showed up for us. You showed up for me today. You showed up for a lot of people who are listening, will listen. And I just wanted to be able to acknowledge that and just keep up the good work. I'm thankful for you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And on that, and I find it, even as a 40-year-old Black man, like, and it's important for me to share that now because, and even before jumping into the next question, as Black men, the stigma out there is men don't communicate, men are not transparent. And in some certain instances, that's correct. But I think many of us as people, I don't necessarily attribute it as a particular gender of transparency and things of that nature, because I think there's different traumas that we all deal with that puts us in a place that we're not as transparent or we're not as open. But especially in communities, of Black men where there's not a lot of trust, there's, growing up, if you express yourself, you were called a punk. Or, there's other words that I can't share on this live stream. That if you were to cry or express yourself, that, we were taught.
A female dog on your
all
cycle.
Of that. All of that. And we suppressed that, because we were taught that we had to be tough, like, don't be a punk, don't be a B, like, why you crying, like a girl or whatever like that, and you had to, like, literally suppress all of that because even growing up in PG County, I didn't grow up in DC, but even growing up in PG County, it was almost like survival. Like, you couldn't be out there on a block or out there playing with your friends and out there, as a
I had blocks in PG.
I mean,
go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
It wasn't the DC block, but our block looked a little different. Now we were standing out there talking all day. Absolutely. We weren't out there smoking. Well, they might have been smoking a couple blocks away, but I couldn't. I wasn't built for that. I got you. But yes. Yeah, but you had to, like, it was survival because we were out. We were gonna be out there joning. We was gonna be out there, trying to show our toughness or whatever like that. So, and even coming into my 20s and early 30s, I thought I was transparent. I thought I was the epitome of keep it real. Even when I started it 14 years ago, I thought I was as real because I can talk. I can be introverted, I can be extroverted, but when I'm in these type of spaces, I can talk. But I didn't realize I wasn't as transparent and open as I thought I was because it was conditioned in me not to.
Right. Absolutely. It's amazing. Again, thank you for sharing that because it's important, right? But it's amazing. I'm gonna say it's not just boys on boys as well. So women as girls, we are taught that a man or a boy got to be a certain way, and if he's not, he's soft. If he's not, he's he boring. And then I used to be a crisis worker, and that meant I would have to go into houses of teenagers who either were getting locked up, who were typically they were getting locked up. Typically, that was especially with my male clients. And I remember so many times having to have conversations with the mothers, the single mothers, because they have so much on them. They're trying to raise a man. They are not a man. So a lot of times they are using tactics that they were taught. So you might find a mother hitting her child in the chest. Because that's how you're supposed to do for boy. If he's talking out, you're supposed to hit him in the chest, right? But not knowing that guess what? That belittles him. I remember having another mother, and we had a long talk after this. She said, he out here thinking he a man, but he walking down the street and it's raining. He got an umbrella on. He got an umbrella up, but yeah, he a man. I said, well, help me understand what's the how are you relating him being a man and having an umbrella up? Because men don't put no umbrellas up. Ooh. Okay. So one of the things you do when you in this field, you allow people to be themselves so they won't judge it, so they can observe it, look at it, and see, do you want to keep this? Is this healthy for you? Is this working for you? So we were able to sit down and I had to ask her, is measuring your son's manhood, maleness against him putting an umbrella up, is that sufficient? Is that motivating him to do the things you want him to do? And she was able to process that. But I definitely agree with you, the stuff that men, that toxic masculinity, it's there, but it's all around. It's in our media. It's in social media. It's so much stuff that contributes to that. And the goal is to be able to do what you're doing right now, having these real conversations, and then saying that, listen, if that's where you at, that's where you at. Let's figure out where you are and let's look at it authentically without judgment. And now we're going to see, again, like I said, does it serve you? Is it working for you? And now I'm gonna go back to being a therapist. Do you understand all of my men talk more than my women. First of all, one reason being, sometimes women don't give men opportunity to talk, right? Sometimes women have so much to say, they don't give. And because I'm telling you, it goes back to that perception and what we were taught, because we automatically come to the table thinking that men don't have anything to say or they're not going to talk. So we start talking and saying so much that by the time it's left for the guy to talk, he don't even got nothing to say. Or the woman has now said so much. When I do couples therapy, I have to tell women sometimes you can't hit 10 subjects. And by the time you get to the 10th one, you want him to address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then get mad if he's only addressing the last thing.
Kyana, I gotta jump in because I gotta jump in. So I literally have this type of conversation with friends of mine. There's a book, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's called Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. And it literally talks about what you just talked about. Because it talks about a lot of our communication styles being different. Absolutely. The majority of men, the majority of women, and it talks about it's men where we're talking to other men. We normally can have a conversation like if I call my boy up and we start talking about sports, we probably could talk about sports for hours, and we're just like boom, going back and forth talking about sports and just drenched in that conversation. Just Jordan said, here she go teaching again. But we could be drenched in the conversation, but it talks about the communication style of women are a lot different. It's more like, and so let me go back to the men part. They consider those type of conversations are waffles. They're kind of like all on that kind of the same line or wavelength. Mm-hmm. But women, their conversations are more like spaghetti. So just what you just said can run off 10 different thoughts in like 30 seconds, and they gave like an example. I heard somebody give a real example one day, and pertains to this, like, a woman can say, oh, I went to the mall today. I went to go get some shoes. Oh, I saw my friend at the mall. My friend is married now. Yeah, now I heard they were going on a trip. And like going from thought to thought to thought to thought to thought. And the way the book talks about how men process, and some women probably will say men are slow, and however you want to, whatever, that's what you feel. But the way we communicate and the way we process often is we have honed in on that first thought or two. And like you just said, once you get to thought 9 or 10, I'm still processing thought 1 and 2. And then there's an expectation, because many women can, because that's their communication style, they can communicate with their girlfriends like that. Mm-hmm. And often, because men, we don't communicate like that. Yeah. And we often fall the victim of not being able to communicate the way that women often communicate with their girlfriends. Absolutely. And going back to that point of what you're saying, like, women can talk. And then when it's time for us to talk, we're not as, we're kind of more sometimes methodical in the way we talk. And sometimes we may not get it out fast enough. and sometimes it's an impatience. And then, for me, if you don't appreciate what I'm saying when I do have the opportunity to talk, I'm shutting down. I'm shutting down. And I think that's not just in intimate relationships. I think that's just, period, whether it's at the job or, whatever it may be. But I think we have to often look and understand that our communication styles are different. And then sometimes we put expectations when we know the communication styles are different, but we want what we want as far as communication. So
yes. And I love what you're saying, because what happens is when people don't know that, right? And one of the things, I'm going to say this again, absolutes, right? We don't speak in absolutes. Even though you're saying men talk like this and women talk like that, it doesn't mean every man does this or every woman does this. Because what happens is people, when you talk in absolutes, people get caught up in that. Well, no, my uncle doesn't do that, or or if you are that woman who doesn't like to talk and shut down, well, I don't like to talk, so it's not absolute. The goal, though, when you're communicating with a man, men think they compartmentalize. right? I had a couple one time, and she told her man, she said, "Can you fix the bed? Can you fix the bed?" He said, "All right, cool." He goes fix the bed. So now she's talking to me, but Kyana, do you know he gonna fix that bed? But yeah, he done left a sock on the floor. He gonna walk past his this on the floor, and I'm like, I know he saw that, and that's the type of stuff I'm mad at, because it's like he want me to be his maid. He want me to pick up on him, and you know what I have to say to her? Did he fix the bed? Did he fix the bed? And you know what the man does? So now I got to say, wait, I want you, we got to, your body language is important right here. But did he fix the bed? Why is that important? Because men compartmentalize. People not going to like what I'm about to say right here. This is how, when men have sex, you hear it, they will say, I don't care, I don't love her, I love you. And we are saying, there's no. You can't love me if you doing this. He compartmentalized. He saw her for sex. He sees you for wifey. Men probably came up with that wifey, girl and whatever. I'm not. Listen to me. Let me get close. I'm not saying that cheating is right and you need to let your man. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he probably did just say he want to have sex with her, but that's a whole nother issue. I'm not gonna get into that. What I'm saying is men compartmentalize, and so when I had to show her, he did what you wanted him to do. The goal is to celebrate that. The goal is to positively reinforce the stuff that he did that you wanted him to do, because he is trying. That is his try. If you dump on his try, like you said, Thomas, they're going to be like, you know what? I can't do nothing right. It don't matter. I ain't doing nothing at all. And you don't want to dump on his try. So this is why therapy is important, because I tell people all the time, I'm an objective view, and I help people to see things that's hard to see when you're in the moment. The reason why she may have felt that way is because there were several different times that had happened. Or like we talked about earlier, she may have some trauma. She may had to be the one to clean up her brother's or whoever's stuff when she was younger, and her mother said that that's your job. And now she has this vow that, you know, that's saying that I will never be somebody's maid. And so now she's in this relationship with somebody she loves. She asks him to do something, he does it, but now she can't focus on what he did because she's focusing on what he didn't do, because it's hitting her trauma. Does that make sense? So that's why I'm trying to make sure I'm tying everything together. That's why it's important to deal with that stuff that we have hidden inside, because if you don't, it's going to come back up. And that's why therapy is important. Does it make sense, Thomas? I know I said, what you feeling over there? What you think?
Nah, that's good. That's good. That's actually a good segue into the next question. But before I do that, I want to do a quick commercial. So many of you know that I just got hired by National Network of Youth Ministries as the East Central Region coordinator, for the organization. And just a simple description of what that really means is that I will be mentoring youth ministry network leaders and youth leaders across 6 states and Washington D.C. And that's Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, and South Carolina. So I have the opportunity to mentor youth leaders. I want to invite those that may be interested. This is a support raise type of position. And so if there may be some that like what we're doing with the Keep It Real Fridays piece, or they want to, donate money to a cause to help further the kingdom in a way. I invite you to go to the website nnym.org /Thomas Brackeen. You can become a financial partner. It can be an individual, it can be businesses, it can be church, it can be your sorority. If you're interested in becoming a financial partner, I invite you to come on board. Or you may say, look, bro, I ain't got no money. We're in the middle of a pandemic. If you want to just become a prayer partner, you can still go to nnym.org /Thomas Brackeen. and just become a partner in prayer. And then, we can talk about maybe just other partnerships we can create in the DC area or beyond. So I had to throw out that commercial there real quick. But I want to jump into
congratulations. You stay just trying to skirt over stuff that is huge. We'll talk about that later. It's okay. It's okay. Like, that's a huge thing what you're saying, especially anytime you talk about mentoring. It's a beautiful thing, and that's important. So keep doing the good work. I'm proud of your try. Never give up on your try. Keep going. Go ahead. Where you want to go now?
I appreciate it. And the big thing for me is actually asking for money. So, give me steps. I'm working. But yeah, go to nnym.org/Thomas and find out how you can support. But back to the conversation. And also, don't forget, keepitrealfridays.com. Follow what we're doing in the DC area and beyond, keepitrealfridays.com. But I want to get back to my friend Kyana. If you just jumped into the conversation late, I have my good friend, my good buddy for some years, Kyana Bradley. She's a therapist. Her business is Authentic Connections Therapeutic Services. You can follow her on social media at Kyana Speaks. And also you can see her information on the screen. You can go to her website, authenticconnectionsts.com, and her email is below as well. So those are how you can get plugged in and connected. Check out what she's doing. She's doing great things. I love checking out her IG and her videos that she posts on social media as it pertains to relationships. So you just kind of made that segue about relationships, right? And so
all right, interview over. That ain't free right there. I'm just go ahead.
If you need to talk about your relationship, go to AuthenticConnectionsTS.com.
That is hilarious. But go ahead.
But real quick, we're gonna give them the free version. We're not gonna give them too much. But can you talk a little bit about the importance of navigating mental health in our interpersonal and romantic relationships? You give us little snippets and snapshots, and that may tie into, and you kind of touched on this. There's a space where authenticity and mental. See, I said the word right.
You did it.
Where they intersect, and so I think a part of that. I just want you to talk about that importance, and as it pertains to our interpersonal relationships, because a lot of times we think this just deals with our romantic relationships, but I think this often deals with our interpersonal relationships with our family members, with our coworkers, with people we go to church with, or things of that nature.
Absolutely. So even if let me speak on Kyana. One of the things, because my father passed away when I was younger and my mom was on drugs, I had no sense of identity, right? And I did not feel like I mattered. I didn't know these words back then, but I was very angry. I was very frustrated. I was solid. I didn't like to show my emotions, right? The only time you saw my emotions was on that basketball court. And that was typically anger and frustration. You were not going to see me cry. I remember telling myself I will never cry again. It was a time when my mother actually we thought she OD'd. She wouldn't wake up. This was when my father was still alive. And he was smacking her, trying to get her up, calling her name. And I remember wanting to call the police or the hospital, but they didn't say, they didn't want me to do it. Back then, I didn't know why. Now I know why, because of the drugs. But she wouldn't wake up. And I remember crying. I finally just called anyway. And like I said, my father passed when I was 15. So this was when I was in junior high school. And I remember crying. And I remember going up the steps. The paramedic was saying, I think this is another one. I had no idea what he meant. I just know I'm crying. I'm shaking. I go into the room. They go in. They do the clear, clap, clap, clear. And she gets up laughing. Right? This is after I am thinking I'm about to lose my mother. Right? I'm about to lose this very special individual in my life. I'm almost getting choked up now. It's okay, little Kyana. It's okay. Right? And when that happened, I said then, and this was in junior high school, I will never cry again. That's huge. So by the time I get into, before I started to doing my therapy, my healing journey in 2009. So that's what, 11 years ago. So I went through a lot of issues because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to let people see, because I thought crying was weak. I thought crying meant that people was going to take advantage of you. I also grew up in the hood. Now I grew up in Northwest. When I tell the kids that I grew up in Northwest and I tell them I grew up in the hood, they be like, Miss K, come on, that is not a hood, Miss K. But I wasn't, anyway. And I remember walking down the street and people literally coming out of nowhere. I'm minding my business saying, I heard you want to fight me. I had to fight on the spur of the moment for no reason at all, right? And so coming through that, we're talking about the importance of mental health and how being in relationship and how dealing with your mental health is important, because by this time, guess what? I had a lot of anxiety. Now I know, thinking back, I had a lot of anxiety because anxiety and a depression diagnosis in a child looks very different than it does in an adult. So a lot of times with children, guess what? It's typically frustration, anger, anxiety comes across as anger. When you think about a mother who sees a child in the street and a car almost hit them and they grab the child and they're like, why would you do that? They're not mad at the child. It's their anxiety. They were scared. They thought they was going to lose the child, but they're showcasing anger. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so by the time I had to learn how I was interacting with people, I didn't let people in. It had nothing to do with the people. It had everything to do with the vow I made to myself when I was in that room with my mother laughing after she came back to life or whatever. But when you're in a relationship, your partner doesn't know that, right? Your partner, especially if you're not communicating these instances with them. And that's why it's important to deal with that, because what you don't want to do is now get into a relationship and I'm thinking that crying is weak and showing vulnerability is weak. And my partner needs to see that to feel connected to me, because a part of connecting to your partner or your son, your daughter, your sister, your mother, your father, whoever, your cousins, is being vulnerable. It's that reciprocal relationship that is conducive for authenticity and vulnerability. But yes, but I'm saying, I'm trying to draw you guys a picture. If I don't deal with that back then, it's going to come back in my present. Why is mental health important? So when you saying your husband or your baby father or your mother or your son, he ain't talking, I promise you, there is a reason. All behavior is purposeful. There's a reason why we do and don't do. It's a reason behind it. And the importance of authenticity, where I tell my clients, to be authentic is to think your real, true thought, to feel your real, true feelings without saying, I ain't supposed to feel that way, without saying, why are you doing that? I tell my clients to ask yourself why, not with judgment, but ask yourself why for understanding, because you really want to know, why is it that you love this person, but you talk like this to them? Why is it that you love this person, but you cheat? Why is it that you love this person, you want to be with this person, but you're not opening up to them? You really want to get to that why for understanding so you can deal with it. But and guess what therapy does? It helps you get to that why for understanding, and it walks you through dealing with it. There's so many people. I'm so thankful that I get to help, and I help them walk through. So when they go back to their man, they now giving him more opportunity to talk. They're now not trying to get him to make them feel better about themselves. They realize that it is their job to make themselves feel better about them. So there are certain things that's no longer a responsibility for their man, or their man. If I got a man in it, it's not his woman's responsibility to make him feel like he matters, because he knows he matters. And her feeling like he matters is a cherry on top. It's not his identity. Does that make sense?
You preaching. Hey, I'm gonna snap. I'm gonna say, hey man, you saying some good stuff. I want y'all to put in the comments, if you're watching via Facebook, just let us know if Kyana is saying some good stuff right now. If y'all would like to hear more from her at a later date, we would love to continue this conversation and all of that. Drop some comments in the live stream. I want to ask you this last question as we prepare to wrap up. This has been great. This has been beyond my expectations. What are some tools? Because we've been talking. So Jordan just said, so when we pass in the plate, we're about to take up a church offering for you.
Drop it. Let's get that.
Jordan, drop that cash app. We're still trying to get her to, we want to pass the plate. And
come on, you was talking about TBJ. We was talking about tools.
you trying to escape past that. So you say she's definitely dropping jewels. Definitely.
Appreciate that.
Man. So we've been talking a lot about mental health in our communities and how we engage in interpersonal relationships. What are some tools and practices that you suggest that so that we can kind of build ourselves to that place of, starting a process of helping ourselves? What are some things that you suggest? Also, I mean, a part of that is y'all got to hit up, Kyana, look at her website, AuthenticConnectionsTS.com. But let us know, just maybe a few simple things that we can kind of start that process.
Absolutely. Let me first preface this by saying I'm actually at capacity and I'm not accepting new clients at this time. That's why I'm actually thankful. That's why I try my best to do videos on social media. I can see but so many people and still be effective myself, because I am, I help people through some very difficult times. And even the times that's not difficult, as far as they might not be going through something today, but just like somebody might come in a situation with a story like mine. That's very difficult to hear. And so I'm at capacity. I'm not accepting new clients, but I definitely would suggest you to go on certain therapy for Black girls, fellas. Even though it's saying therapy for Black girls, it's also for Black individuals, white individuals. It's basically a directory for therapists. And then you got other therapy directories like Psychology Today, Good Therapy. And anything you can Google Black therapists. And because of social media and so much has really been so much light is shining on mental health, you can push. I'm old because I just learned that I can search hashtags. So you can go on and search hashtag and say therapist. If you whatever type of therapist you want, you can search that, and a lot of people will come up. But I'm not at this point, because people will after this, they will send me emails, they will send me a request, and I'm not accepting new clients at this time. Please check my website though for updates. If I'm accepting new people, I am having one person come on to support, but absolutely. So some of the tools, the first thing, I say this all the time, and it's important, is that we give ourselves space to be authentic. What do I mean by that? We give ourselves, if nobody else is in the room. See, Thomas, what happens is at some point you had to be in the room by yourself and be authentic, being brutally honest, and let's not say brutally, being absolute honest with yourself to say, I have issues with this. I don't like this happening in my life. I am noticing this pattern. But you did that without judging yourself. I'm not saying sometimes you might judge yourself, but the goal is to get to understanding, because judging yourself causes you to blame yourself. And when you blame yourself, it causes you to shame yourself. And when you feel shame, now you gotta go find something that's gonna make you better. And you're probably gonna go do that toxic behavior that you're trying to get away from to make you feel better again. Does that make sense? So the first thing is to be authentic with yourself and to really look at your behavior for what it is. It's there. Now we got to figure out, why is it there? So first of all, I mean, it's important. You can't change what you're not aware of. You can't change what you won't accept that's actually happening in your space. So I couldn't change the fact that I wasn't purposely doing it, but I was unconsciously doing it, but I was doing it at a fault to myself and others. And I had to get to the point where I said, I need to figure out why I keep getting into the same stuff. And when I did that, that's when therapy came, and I said, it's time to go to therapy. And that sounds like what you did as well. And that's the first start. And I hear people say a lot of times, you are pushing therapy. Again, I'm full. So I'm pushing therapy because it works. I have my own therapist. It works. I have trauma, and trauma doesn't go away. You just learn how to manage it. And that's the importance. So not judging yourself, accepting where you are, and then looking at it and asking yourself, how is this benefiting me? And what is this costing me? And that supports you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Check out my IG for other things as well, and tips to kind of help you in that journey. Emotion management matters.
Awesome. Y'all definitely, this has been a great conversation. Definitely, I appreciate you, Kyana, for giving us some of your time. I know you're not taking clients, but if people wanted to just sow into your life, how would they do that? Do you have a Cash App? If somebody just, the Lord laid it upon their heart, you're not taking clients, but they want to sow into your life, how would they be able to sow into you?
See, now we get into like, what you talking about sewing to me? So it don't necessarily work like that. So I don't even want to get into no ethicals. And that's what I really want to make sure that I'm being. And I don't want people to feel like they have to, sew into my space as I'm giving you something. I don't even know what that looks like ethically, and I value my license.
I respect that.
One of the things that you can do is go to therapy. You want to sow into my life? Because my goal, I want to see everybody healthy. I want to see everybody really, and I'm doing this absolute on purpose. I want to see you in a healthy, I want to see you experience a healthy relationship. If that's a healthy relationship, if that's a healthy relationship with yourself, if that's a healthy relationship with your significant other, that's how you sow. You want to help me by helping yourself. That's how you do it. And I really appreciate it. And if you do that, tell me, give me updates. Let me know how it's happening. Let me know what, let me know what your journey looks like. Let TBJ know what your journey looks like. That's how you can sow to me. And I really appreciate it. And I'm excited to see what you're going to do from there.
Thank you so much. So before we close out, I want y'all can go back and listen to this conversation beginning tomorrow. KeepItRealFridays.com. It will be posted on the website. Just want to invite you to keep in contact with what we're doing. If you know young people, if you know a young adult that is passionate, that's gifted, have them go to our website, fill out the contact information to get in contact with me to see how they can get engaged. We welcome poets, dancers, mime. I mean, we can set up. You can do mime or dance from your home or whatever like that. Just make sure you clean up the basement though if you want to do that. But yeah, we want to showcase people that are gifted. We want to make this an authentic space. That's one thing. That we want to do, especially with what you said, one of the tools that we can use, we want to be authentic. Yes, go ahead and brand. Go ahead and brand out here, teaching me how to brand. I'm about to get my Keep It Real Fridays pillow. Come on now. I'm about to text you for the website so I can get my Keep It Real Fridays pillow. I'm about to be out here.
I had a couch. That's why I had a pillow. I had a couch in my office.
Come on now, see, you teaching me, so I appreciate that. But y'all check out KeepItRealFridays.com. Also, remember, if you want to partner in the work that I'm doing, please definitely nnym.org/Thomas Rakeem. If you have questions about the work that I'm doing, like I said, hit me up. You can become a financial partner. You can become a prayer partner. It's not about the money, but I am going to ask. I'm in a different place.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's a part of your job. Yeah,
it's a part of my job. It's definitely a part of my job.
Oh, we love you, Rakeem. Yeah. Oh, we love you, Rakeem. You know that's from? That's old school.
If they love me, go to nnym.org. No, I'll play, y'all. I know y'all love me. But definitely thank you again, Kyana. I think hopefully down the road we can get you back on and we can have another conversation. Jordan says, thank y'all for this. Kyana, you're always dropping gems.
Oh, bro, thank you, Jordan. I appreciate you, Jordan.
Appreciate my little sis always
Absolutely.
Supporting.
Sweet.
Oh yeah, I peeped this too. Jordan said, "Yes, come on, freestyle," because you started with the blaming and shaming. I thought you was about to go in, and I was just like, "Oh, she about to go." I'm about to cash.
You know, I feel that passion, that teacher that come out of me, and I started to talk, and I started to wanting to get the passion behind what I'm saying.
I told you I do that elementary school beat. Hold up.
Not at all.
They ain't ready.
I love it.
Thank you, Kyana. We'll definitely catch up soon. Thank you, Facebook.
Thank you all for watching. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for this as well. TBJ up in the house.
All right, y'all. Love y'all. Bless y'all. We'll be back next week. We'll drop a flyer in the next day or two with our next special guest next week. But hit me up if you know some folks that want to get involved with Keep It Real Fridays. Love y'all. God bless.